Hi guys, I'm back for more. So it's not sunrise. I woke up this morning and I looked out the window and it was really cloudy and I was like, nah, and went back to bed. So now it's a little bit sunny and it feels nice. It's not as cold as yesterday, so I'll finish up my questions. And I'm going to try to be a lot quicker than yesterday because there's lots more questions and I don't want this to go on too long, but maybe you can listen to it like a podcast if you're bored, or while you're cleaning or something, or while you're making chocolates, you know? I love a good long podcast that I can just listen to at work and stuff, so maybe you guys don't mind me rambling, but I'll try to make it just a little bit quicker to answer these questions. So yesterday I told you guys that one of the shows that I watch, because it's like local to me here in Utah, is The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And a fun fact is that they did one of their photo shoots where they're like walking up out of the water on this lake. And I think it was maybe somewhere around here. There's like this little opening spot with like a round area surrounded by whatever plant this is. It's like, I don't know what you'd call it. Okay, I'll show you where I think it might have been. It might have been somewhere else, but it was definitely on this lake, which, see, it's just kind of interesting that, I don't know, probably a lot of you guys don't watch that show, but it's just interesting to watch a show that's like filmed in the place I grew up in, you know? Anyway, I think it might be that area right there. Okay, enough of that rambling. See, I said I wouldn't ramble and I just can't help myself. Okay, the next topic is airbrushing. There's only two questions, but one is asking, where do you vent your spray booth to? Can you hear those birds? They're so loud. Okay, so my spray booth works different. Some are like a full ventilation system, but this little one is made for at-home use and it doesn't vent to anywhere. So the way it works is just that it has a filter. So all the cocoa butter gets stuck to the filter and then you just change the filter a lot. So it's basically just trying to prevent all that extra cocoa butter that's floating around in the air, and it's sucking in as much as it can through the filter, and it gets stuck to the filter and then you just throw it away and use a new one. And you probably should change that filter. It just rests on top of the booth. I usually change it like every 2 or 3 molds depending on how thick it looks like it was the cocoa butter's getting. So yeah, that's how it works. I also usually open a window and I also turn on my microwave vent on high just to catch any extra, and it usually does catch extra. So it's, I mean, the little filter system, it's not really made for mass production or anything, but it does get me by at my house, and eventually I'm going to need something bigger if I want to make more chocolates to sell. But also, just in case you're not aware, always wear a mask, a particulate mask, because you don't want to be breathing in that cocoa butter. It would be really bad for your lungs. So in case you didn't know, just be sure to do that. Okay, next question is 36 psi good enough to spray cocoa butter? I can't seem to find any better airbrushes. Okay. Way back in the day, when I first got my compressor and airbrush, I filmed a video, and you've probably seen it. It's like my more how to use an airbrush one, where I test out all the different like things you can change on the airbrush, like the paint flow and the airflow and all that. And you can use like, I think I tested out 30, 46. I think I did all that in that video, but like it does work. But if you were just like spraying a bunch of molds, like honestly, I don't think 36 is high enough. Now, I don't even mess with the airflow. I always keep it at max, and I always use 80 psi. So it's hard to say, like, could it work? Yes, but it's not going to be very efficient. And your airbrush also could clog a lot easier. I don't know. If anyone else has like experience using a lower psi, maybe you can leave a comment and help this person out. I would just say, like, I don't know, a lot of times people will ask me about certain like different equipments and stuff of like if they can get by using this or that, but I would say if you're going to spend the money, just buy the right thing from the start. And honestly, to me, you're going to need like at least 60 to 80 PSI. I would just say you're more safe to just do that from the very beginning. Next topic, I'm taking a break from walking because I feel like I'm breathing heavy and that's annoying maybe in this video. Next topic is cocoa butter, and there's a bunch of questions. So I saw in one of your videos that you recommend first applying a thin layer of tempered cocoa butter with an airbrush, let it dry, and then apply the different colors. Is that correct? Thank you. Yes and no. You can do that, but you don't have to do that. I wonder if that video was the one where I was doing the oat food colors and I wanted the pink marbled ones to be really shiny. So let me double check the question. Okay. So if you're using colored cocoa butter, you don't need a layer of regular cocoa butter first. Cocoa butters will always be the shiniest. So you can just apply the colored cocoa butters right into the mold. Now, if you're using just chocolate for molding and you want that extra shine, you can do the layer of plain cocoa butter. Cocoa butter will always be the shiniest that you can use. Any color of cocoa butter will be shinier than chocolate plain. And then dark chocolate will be the next shiniest. And milk and white are the least shiny. White's the least shiny. And then as far as cocoa butter colors, the darker colors will be shinier than light colors. It's just how the light reflects off of it. And then the amount of fat in cocoa butter, because it's pure fat, that's why it's the shiniest. And dark chocolate has the most amount of cocoa butter in it, so that's why it's shinier. So it's not a necessary step. And honestly, like with dark chocolate, just mold dark chocolate. If you want your milk chocolate to be super shiny, you can. Or if you're using colored chocolate and you want it to be as shiny as colored cocoa butter, you can do that. But it's just an extra little tip if you are looking for that, but you definitely don't have to. So it's not like a required step in the process in general. And then this question is along the same lines. Putting that thin layer of cocoa butter in the molds gives it that extra shiny shine, but that's with an airbrush, right? Can it be done any other way? An airbrush will be the quickest and it will give you the best layer, because the layer will be thin and even. So that's the best way to do it. But if you don't have an airbrush, you can just use a paintbrush. It will take some practice because it is kind of hard to get a thin, even coat of cocoa butter without an airbrush, using just a paintbrush, especially because cocoa butter can pool sometimes if you put too much and then it gets thicker. And then you want to be careful because cocoa butter, plain cocoa butter, isn't clear all the way. It has a yellow tint. So if the cocoa butter pools and then you get a thicker spot, it might give a yellowish tint above whatever color you use or chocolate you use. So just be aware of that. And if you're just going for a thin layer to add shine, you can just use your finger with a glove and just quickly rub it in. You don't want to overwork the cocoa butter, but you could just dip your finger in and try to give a thin coat around the mold. And I feel like that would do just as good of a job. Might be easier than a paintbrush, but for some people a paintbrush is easier. So just depends on preference. Okay. What is the easiest way to use different color chocolate in a mold? This person asked about chocolate, not cocoa butter. Cocoa butter is like what I always use, but if you're just wanting to use colored chocolate, I only have a couple videos, I think, on that. The one that I mentioned earlier where I marble the pink colors together. So yeah, you can marble colors together. That always looks really nice. This says the easiest way. If you don't want to mess around with colored cocoa butter, but you still want to add designs into your mold, you can use colored chocolate or natural chocolate. You can marble them together. You can use your finger, like you can dip your gloved finger in and just swipe the mold or dab it. You could use other things, like you could use a paintbrush to apply it into the mold, and you can pipe it. So you could like pipe dots or pipe like a little line pattern, like a swirl or a zigzag or something, or try to pipe straight lines depending on how good you are. So yeah, I mean, you can get creative with it and just apply it however you'd like. The only thing is you want to make sure that you're not putting a ton in there, so that the layer is really thick, because you still, when you shell the chocolates, you want it to have that nice thin shell. And then the other thing is sometimes when you pipe, depending on the shape and stuff, it creates a corner. So you want to make sure that you, when you shell the chocolates, that you really tap them and tap the mold really hard and for quite a long time to get that chocolate into all the little crevices, because you might get air bubbles between the mold and where you've piped the chocolate. So you could get little air bubbles if you pipe, depending on the pattern and shape, but those are just some ideas. When you swirl 2 or more colors in a mold, do you use opaque colored cocoa butter or translucent colored cocoa butter? Thank you, and I look forward to seeing more videos. Thanks. I'm glad you look forward to it. So I've gotten really used to not like repeating everything more than once, or like in my earlier videos I would like talk more about the cocoa butter, but as I've gone I think I talk a little bit less about it. But most of the time I use Chef Rubber cocoa butter pre-colored, because they're so easy, they have tons of colors, they're convenient for me, and they work great. And all of their regular standard colors, they're like, I think it's called the Artisan line, those have white in them, so they're opaque, or mostly opaque. I mean, the darker the color gets, the less opaque, because the less white you can add, but you get the point. They do have white in them, so they are considered opaque. Same with their jewel line, their jewel collection. So when I've swirled colors, like I think I have a Christmas video with red, green, and white, and I do like the marble effect with my finger, those are opaque, but they don't have to be. Like when you mix your own colors, or Pastry Chef's Boutique's pre-colored cocoa butter colors, they are translucent. They don't have white already mixed in. So, but you can still do the swirl with them. And like the oat food colors that you mix yourself that I've used a couple times, also translucent unless you add white. But you can still do the swirl technique with those colors. But just like any design, you will want to back the mold with white afterwards to like lock in the color. Unless you're molding with white chocolate, then you're fine to just mold. But kind of similar to any pattern, doesn't matter if you're swirling or spraying or anything. If you're backing the design with a darker colored chocolate, you're going to want to spray a layer of white first to lock in the color so it doesn't get dark and you can't really tell what color it is. I enjoy making different truffles, but I'm really intimidated about making them look fancy, as colored cocoa butter is super expensive and I don't own a microwave. So tempering such a small amount without one is a pain. Yeah. Do you have any advice for decorating without cocoa butter or using cocoa butter without a microwave? Thank you. Yeah, you can decorate with just chocolate, like kind of what we were talking about before. You can also use other things to decorate, like edible lusters, and you can also marble the chocolate together or do different designs with different chocolate. Like you could swipe with dark chocolate and mold with white, or kind of combine them like that. Other ways of decorating, I mean, I'm trying to think without using cocoa butter, because you can like do flower petals and like gold leafing. You can add gold leafing after you mold with just plain chocolate. You can use lusters after. But if you want to use cocoa butter and you just need help tempering without a microwave, you can use a hot water bath. You could use a heating pad or a heating plate to melt it. If you have a mini, or even in your oven, I know in different countries you can set your oven to really, really low temperature. You could use that to melt the cocoa butter, but like the standard ovens in the US, like my oven, it can't go low enough to do that, so that doesn't work. Yeah, it is kind of hard without a microwave. Other than that, you would just need like a melting I mean, if you have a melting tank, or you could even buy one of those mini melting. There's like, I don't know if you can get this where you're at, but if you can, they like Wilton and other little companies too, like cake decorating that do like candy melts and stuff. They have those little melter pots. They get really hot though, so just like you would just need to watch the cocoa butter, keep stirring it, make sure it doesn't get too hot, and just use that to melt. I would say that would work pretty good if you don't have a microwave and you don't want a microwave. So those are some suggestions. All right. Best wishes for 2026 from the Netherlands. Thank you. And I have a question. Could you tell me which food coloring, liquid or powder, is best for coloring cocoa butter white? It's turning yellowish now, and I'd like to get a white color in my airbrush. Why is it turning yellowish? Or did you not color it white at all? I use, like I mentioned before, Chef Rubber's pre-colored white. It works great. Oat sent me over Christmas their Christmas colors. Their white also worked great. The hardest part is like knowing how much to add to make it a lot thicker and more opaque enough to get rid of that yellowish tint that the cocoa butter naturally has. And if you're wondering what it is that they use, most companies use titanium dioxide, but that isn't like considered food safe in some countries, and it's banned. So I think in Europe we can still use those here. That might be on its way out. The alternative option I think that's allowed is calcium carbonate, however you say it. But I've never tried it myself, so I can't say. I just know that that is an alternative choice, so hopefully that helps. How many layers or colors of cocoa butter can you put on a bonbon mold before it's too much? That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like I'd have to try it. It also depends. If you're talking airbrush, you could probably get away with quite, well, I don't know if quite a bit. I would say the most I usually ever do is 3, maybe depending on the design 4. And sometimes you apply a design first and then you still do like the background. And so technically in certain areas it's thicker and you're adding more layers. So I don't know. I would say max 5. It's not a hard rule though. If you're painting with a brush, the layers are a lot thicker, but sometimes you need to do 3 to get them covered. But the thicker isn't better when it comes to cocoa butter, so you want to keep it as thin as possible. But I would say there's no real reason to do more than 4 to 5. That reminds me of a video I saw a long time ago of someone online doing as many layers as they could of nail polish, and they like stacked it so thick. I don't know, it was a silly experiment, but maybe we need to try that with cocoa butter and see what happens. It wouldn't taste very good, honestly. So yeah, I would keep it under 5. All right, the next topic is water activity. I put them under this category. There's just 3 questions, but they're all kind of go under that. So how do you tackle water activity? As I start tinkering with recipes as a homemaker and no formal instruction, I'm learning how critical it is for the safety of your customers. It's hard to balance prep, but making sure they're safe to eat in a couple weeks. Yes, this is a good question, and it is very important because we want to make sure that what we're giving to people are safe to eat. And it is hard to know because once you lock it into the chocolate, it's kind of a bit of a mystery, like what's going on in there. But I'm going to read the second question too because they're along the same lines. Hello, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. I wait for your videos like a Christmas gift. That is so sweet and so funny to picture because I'm just me. But I like that encourages me to keep going. I'm your follower from the province of Quebec. That's cool. Like the first follower, I would like to get some information about water activity. And also, is it bad to keep the bonbons in the fridge or freezer to keep them safe to eat before giving them to friends? For example, how long is the shelf life for a bonbon filled with caramel? Thank you very much for all your work. I am not a professional, just a passionate chocolate maker. You're welcome. Okay. So let's tackle both of those questions. Okay, so to answer the first one, how do I tackle water activity? Well, I'm currently learning more about it and learning how to balance my own recipes and adding different ingredients that I'd never heard of before 3 years ago. So how do I tackle it? I'm currently spending time learning when I can about it. And one of my big goals, I talked about this in my last Q&A, I remember, but then I really did start getting more serious about learning about water activity and the equipment that you need to like actually measure it, because here's something that maybe some of you don't know, and I do get a lot of comments with recipe videos like, what's the shelf life? What's the shelf life? But you cannot tell the shelf life unless you use the proper equipment to measure it. So I can't give you guys that. If I did, it would just be an estimate anyway. Part of that question was, how long does caramel last? Well, caramel has a longer shelf life than a ganache because it has lower water activity and high content of sugar, which helps as a preservative. But I can't tell you exactly, and it also depends on the exact recipe, like how much butter does it have in it, which contains water, how much cream and other waters like flavorings or fruit purees. So I can't give you an exact answer. Every specific recipe would be different and would have a different measurement. And you have to have the equipment to measure it. So it really is hard. And this is why, if you're just making chocolates at home, it does get intimidating because you're like, how do I know what I can tell people? How quick do you have to eat this? My advice, as just making chocolates from home and you don't have the money for the equipment, you either use a recipe that someone has formulated for you and measured and can tell you an estimated shelf life. But my advice would just be that you should make chocolates as fresh as possible. So if you have an event or something, you can decorate molds, you can shell them in advance. But I would save the filling for as close to the event or holiday as you can. So if you're making a bunch of chocolates for Valentine's Day or something, don't fill them till the day before if you can, cap them, pop them out, and package them. And then I would just say it's safe without knowing and measuring that people should eat them the same as they would if you were baking bread at home or baking cookies. Eat them ASAP or within a week, because a lot of us just making stuff at home, you can't measure because and this is what I was going to get to, is I was really seriously looking into buying an AW meter last year, and I spoke with some sales reps, and I was literally looking at the smallest one possible, the starter one, and it's $4,500. So just to put it into perspective, and the bigger ones that probably chocolate shops have, they're $20,000. So with all that being said, hopefully this helps. But yeah, I do still want to buy one. I just couldn't swing it last year, and hopefully this year I can get one, because I do really want to spend more time learning and testing. I want to learn how to test my own and formulate the recipes. But yeah, that's a big goal of mine. And that goes along with my goal and project of spending a lot more time on courses. And that would be one of the courses, how to formulate recipes, what the measurements are, how different things affect recipes. And then I really would love, we all can't afford that, but if we pool together our money, I could buy one for everyone. I run this channel, and if I have a Patreon, we can come up with new flavors, and hopefully I can formulate some recipes and take suggestions on what kind of recipe do you guys want to see, what kind of flavor do you want to see, and then I can test it and see what the AW reading is, and then we have an idea of shelf life. So yeah, that's one of my goals. It goes along with the courses and the Patreon and the subscription. It is hard. I have to balance learning with filming and doing the YouTube for fun, and then also my job. And so it's like, yeah, the closer I can get to doing the chocolate stuff full time, the more I can spend money-wise and the more time I can spend doing that and learning and then sharing what I learn and experimenting with you guys. So it's kind of hard because it's like a balance right now. But yeah, that's one of my goals. I would say in general that my advice is the fresher the better. Like unless you're like running a chocolate shop and producing a ton of chocolates, and shelf life is really, really important, and extending it is really important in order to like run your shop and keep things on the shelves and have them last a long time. And you're like manufacturing so they have like if you're just a little at-home chocolate maker, I would say the fresher is better. Like using fresh ingredients and serving them, like they're always going to taste better the sooner they're eaten. There's like a fuzz that hit me and I can't find it and it's stuck. Oh, another part of that question, one of the questions was, I lost the path. Oh, it's here. One of the parts of that question was, can you refrigerate or freeze your chocolates? Yes, you can. The biggest concern with that is that it can dull the shine, but if you do it right, it won't. So what you have to do is protect it from the humidity in the fridge or freezer, and then you have to let it cool. You have to let it come to room temperature when you take them out by protecting it. So like the easy way of doing it, if you don't have like a vacuum bag sealer, is to like put all your chocolates in a box with the least amount of air in it, and then like wrap it with plastic wrap, and then when you take them out of the fridge, let them sit for like 30 minutes before you unwrap it, because like the shock of the air difference is what makes the shine dull. So I gotta get this fuzz. Okay guys, I don't know if I got the fuzz. It still feels a little weird. You guys, I probably look crazy in the video, like you probably can't see it, but there is something in my eye. It's probably a feather from all these birds or these plants, one of the two. I can still feel it. I can still feel it. Have you guys noticed that? I have a bit of a Utah accent. Apparently the Utah accent is pretty strong, and with all these TV shows set in Utah lately, people make fun of us. And I've had my own spat, I don't know, that seems extreme, but if you've been here and you've been on my chewy caramel video, every year it gets a little heated over there. People get very irritated that I don't say caramel, and I'm sorry. I can't change it now. I would feel like an imposter. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up saying caramel. It's just how I say it. And if I change it now, I feel like a poser. Like it doesn't feel real. So, sorry, I can't. And I also say fill and dill and mountain, not mountain, you know? It's just how I talk. It's how I was raised in Utah. Okay, we're on our last category, which is random. So this is just a bunch of random ones that didn't really have a category, so I'm throwing them all into one. Okay. Who are your favorite chocolatiers? Well, I'll go in order. Kirsten Tibbles from Australia, the chocolate queen of Australia. I think she kind of introduced me to like how to make colored chocolates using cocoa butter. She was like my first online teacher through her Savor School. She has a subscription, and yeah, she's one of my favorites because she's an OG. And I specifically remember browsing Instagram and getting like recommended like a really, really shiny chocolate one year, and it was from Lana Orlova Bauer. And I remember like reading her bio, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so like what's the word I'm looking for, accomplished for her age. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, I'm so behind in life. But I was like, how does she do this? And she had this hashtag she always used, she still does, Max Shine. And I was like, yeah, these bonbons are shiny, like how do you do that? And so I remember she's one of the ones I always remember, and I'm still a fan. And then I also mentioned Chef Junkstead already, and he's awesome. his teaching style. I feel like I relate a lot to it because he's very thorough and he's very detailed, which I appreciate. And he's also really nice. I met him. Oh, so in my travels, me and my sister went to Sweden. Like, it started out to go to the Eras tour to see Taylor Swift in Sweden, but then it turned into like a sister trip and we went to multiple places. I have like a recap video if you want to see it on my channel. I'll link it. But while I was in Sweden, I was like, wait, that's where his shop is, in Stockholm. So I asked him if we could come swing by and say hi, and he said sure. So we did, and so we met him, and his chocolates are crazy good. Like, still the best chocolate I've ever had in my life, I think. So yeah, one of my faves. And then Andre Dubovic, he's so creative. If you've seen him on Instagram, I've talked about him on here. He's the creator with Make It of the trending chocolate stamps. I think they were the original creators. Now there's lots of people that make them, but he's so cool. Like, his techniques out of the box. He just like makes up his own cool stuff. He's really fun, and I can appreciate that a lot. But he just experiments and comes up with completely new things. Lately, there's someone, I had to look up her name before I am filming this because she always pops up. I follow her on Instagram, but she always pops up and you couldn't miss her. Her work is crazy. She like hand paints. And I asked her, where do you get these molds? Because they like are specific shaped to like what she's painting. It's crazy. She says she makes them. I don't know how she does, but she does. And anyway, her Instagram is VHV Art Chocolate. So I'll give an example here. I'll attach a couple photos or something and share her handle. But she's one of my latest favorites because I'm just like so impressed, and the time it would take to do what she does, I just know. Guys, I can see the fuzzies that are floating. Here's one. This. Do you see that? I think that's what's in my eye. I'm gonna have to dig it out when I get back home. Anyway, so she's one of my favorites. She hand paints chocolate, and I want to do a video like in her style, but like my own vision or whatever. Just like very intricate painting. It looks really fun. So yeah, those are some of my faves. I'm sure there's more. I follow lots of different chocolate people now on Instagram. Whenever I see a new one that I like, I hit follow. So this is the fuzzy stuff that's in my eye. I don't know what kind of plant that is, but I think it's starting to feel better though, actually. Anyway, moving along. What do you think about edible ink printers for chocolate? I think they're cool. I haven't ever used one. I don't know how they work. But yeah, I think it's cool. Part of me, like, there's a time and place for it. Same with like my stamps that I do. Like, sometimes you just need something to look very detailed, clean, and specific. So like with the course I'm working on right now of how I design stamps and get them made into rubber stamps, like sometimes chocolates look really good just like sleek, stamped on there, and uniform. And I feel like those are the kind of things that you could do with a chocolate printer. But you really can't beat like a hand decorated, imperfect, abstract, colorful chocolate design. You know what I mean? It's kind of like with the new the stamp trend where you melt out the chocolate or melt out the cocoa butter, or sometimes I stamp it in. They're really cool, and like it's awesome that we have all these new options and stuff, and there's a time and place. But sometimes things start to look too perfect, and it kind of takes out the art because they're still hard to do. It's a technique in and of itself. But you guys know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's the category of chocolate edible printers, maybe. But like when someone creates like a really cool design and they just did it with like random things like a brush or hot water, or you know what I mean? I think that's really cool. So those are still my favorite looks, but all of these things are a tool and they're useful, and I think they all have a time and place to be used. So I think anything that can help you make cool chocolates is a good thing. Happy New Year to you, Brittnee. Thank you for your great videos. You're welcome. Do you ever get frustrated with chocolate sticking to the mold? Funny you should ask. In general, no. Not usually. There was a time though, after culinary school, when I had just barely kind of learned how to temper chocolate, didn't know anything about cocoa butter, bought some molds off of Amazon. I still don't know what the problem is. I should revisit those molds and see if they don't work. I tempered chocolate the only way I knew how, which is a way that I don't even use now, that I learned in school. I was doing too many steps, I didn't need to, but they worked perfectly one Valentine's Day. Great. I only made chocolates once a year back then. Went to do it again the next year. They all stuck into the mold, and I was like, oh my gosh. Put them in the freezer and finally got them out. And they were like fine. They like turned out okay. I could still use them. But that's the last time like chocolates have really stuck to the mold, and that was like years and years ago. But this Christmas I had a couple that were sticking at like not quite half the mold, but there was a real problem, and I was like, what in the world did I do? Because it never happens. And it wasn't even in a tough mold either. It was in just a regular half sphere, and usually those ones easily fall out. And the only thing I can think that I did is it had a gold swirl, and I think I overworked the cocoa butter. And that can happen if you overwork it. It gets too tempered, and it can get crackly and break, and it doesn't adhere to the layer of chocolate. So that did happen to me this year, but I think that's why. It was my own fault. I made a mistake. But yeah, so I think I know why it happened. I overworked the cocoa butter. It was my own fault. And but yeah, that usually doesn't happen to me ever anymore. And if you just nail down every single step of the process, you have well-tempered cocoa butter, well-tempered chocolate, you shouldn't have that problem. And yeah, once you become familiar with each step, you'll gain confidence, and then you'll start to know like if you did something that caused it. But it is hard to get to that point because it takes a lot of practice. This question made me laugh because I relate to it a lot. What's the latest you've ever stayed up with food? It's 6:30 a.m. and I'm just about finished making 50 servings of hazelnut whiskey chocolate mousse for a party tonight. One last hour to go. Hopefully it went well for you and you finished up on time. I cannot tell you, and you could ask my family and friends even, how many times I have spent all the way through the night pulling an all-nighter making cakes and chocolate. Even art projects in college, like that was just standard protocol for me. All-nighters were always the method. So I can definitely relate to you. And I'm trying to think of a couple examples. This year at Christmas I made like 40 something hot cocoa bombs plus bonbons to sell at my friend's like local farm store, which was really cute. But I stayed up at least until 4 a.m. that night finishing them up and packaging them and tying ribbons on them. That's just like the most recent one. Even for a video, I have pulled an almost all-nighter filming, because filming like doubles the time it takes to do anything, which yeah, it's very time consuming. Like when there's a project I can do without filming it, like I don't need to film it, you've seen it before, or it's not for a video, things go by so much quicker. But when I have to film it, like doubles the time it takes me to do anything. But when I filmed my Thailand earring replica video where I hand painted with cocoa butter all of those bonbons, I think I stayed up till about 3 a.m. And then I had so much footage from that I had to cut down. I think I pulled almost an all-nighter editing that video the next week. So yeah, I can definitely relate to you. Sometimes there is just not enough time in the day, you know, and you got to get it done. So yeah, definitely relate. Hi, Happy New Year. Thanks, you too. What's the most popular filling flavor, and what's your favorite filling? Well, this is a hard one for me because I feel like if I owned like a chocolate shop, I'd have a lot more information to tell you, but I can only go by like my most popular flavors with family, friends, and the people that order chocolates from me for random events. I would say like a crowd pleaser is always raspberry, orange, but like a salted caramel, I would say that's the favorite amongst the people I give chocolates to and make chocolates for. Salted caramel, can't go wrong with it. It's sweet, it's salty, and it goes with any type of chocolate. Yeah, it's a good one. That's also my favorite. If I go to a chocolate shop, always get a caramel. I always get a caramel or caramel. The price of good quality chocolate pellets, however you say that. This says pallets, and then I'm thinking of pellet. That's not the right word. You don't want to call chocolate that, right? Anyway, might be a spelling error. Is getting crazy. What's going on? I only use Calibut. Well, yeah, chocolate price has gone up. Price of everything has gone up. Probably from tariffs and other things, inflation. But I read that there was some bad weather in some of the high-producing chocolate countries in Africa, the Ivory Coast, and some other places. But anyway, there was some bad weather, so it was kind of a bad season. So a lot of the supply wasn't good. So I think that's part of it. And then just, yeah, general price increases right now. It's getting pretty bad out there. Okay, this question is how to use a big metal bowl to make 2 half spheres of chocolate to fill with cake. You know who this immediately made me think of is Amari Gashan. In fact, how did I forget him? He's probably one of my favorite chocolatiers, but he's gotten so, he's so talented out there in his own world doing all the sculptures. It's kind of hard to watch him. They're so perfect. They don't even look like chocolate. And I'm also, oh man, I would love to talk to him in person and be like, as someone who like films too and like tries to plan projects and then film them, the amount of hours he spends, but like he pumps out those chocolate videos like it feels like fast. Like I know he has a team and he has a school in Vegas and stuff. Like he probably gets all his chocolate for free. Like he's probably sponsored, which is cool, which would help. But I want to like sit down with him and observe how he maps out a chocolate sculpture to the very millimeter, because they are so detailed and perfect. I just want to watch him do it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't get bored. I'd just sit there. I think I mentioned this in a different Q&A, maybe like the two years ago, or even the one I did 3 years ago, but I spent 1 year, like after that one show he had on Netflix, the Chocolate School of Chocolate, whatever it was called, that competition show, I looked him up in Vegas and I was like, oh, he offers master classes for sculptures, chocolate sculptures. And I was like, oh, cool. Cause like, I don't really want to go to pastry school again, cause he also has that program and it's really expensive. I'm like, okay, if I just save up for just this chocolate sculpting, like I'd love to learn the techniques and learn from him. I think it'd be so fun. So I saved up my money and then he stopped doing them. Why am I talking about that? Oh, how to use a big metal bowl to make, yeah. I thought of him because he's always using just other items from the kitchen, like, yeah, big metal bowls and making big spheres and stuff. And he just uses what he has around. It's really cool. Then he makes it into different shapes. But yeah, you can use 2 big bowls. You would use them just like a mold. But I remember when I worked at the hotel bakery, we used to put on this buffet for like holidays. We would do an Easter buffet and we molded these giant Easter bunnies. And it's a process because you have to use a lot of chocolate, and just for the structure to hold itself, the wall has to be thick enough, so it can't be super thin, it'll just break. So to do the half sphere bowls, it's going to take a lot of chocolate. It's going to be expensive, but you can do it. But I would do multiple layers. Yeah, I would do multiple layers, make sure it's decently thick so that it can hold together. But that's an expensive cake because of the chocolate. But I don't know what else to say about it. Just do 1 layer at a time and keep adding more. That's how I do it. But yeah, swirl it in there, dump it out just like a chocolate mold. Let it set up at room temperature, then add the next layer. That's what I would do. I've got one question. Please, at what temperature do you set your heat gun? This one's easy. My heat gun doesn't have a temperature setting. It's either on or off. So I just turned it on. It gets really hot though, like it would burn your fingers. So yeah, sorry, I don't have anything else. It doesn't have a temperature. If I had to guess, I don't even know what temperature it would be. But I don't think usually a heat gun does, but maybe some of them do. Anyway, sorry I can't help more. I just turned it on. And it's just a cheapie that I got off of Amazon, but I've had it a couple years now and it's still going. Works really good. I don't know, it's linked in all my videos if you want the same one, but yeah, I don't know how hot it gets, but it gets pretty hot. Okay, I have a couple of the random ones that are not so much a question for me to answer now, but they're requests, but I'll read them just for fun. Could you do an evolution of my chocolate journey video? I see a lot of changes in your tools and techniques over time, and it would be interesting to capture your lessons learned along the way in one place. That's a really good request for a video. I always take your requests that you guys comment and stuff, and I have a spreadsheet. I have a master spreadsheet where I have flavors that have been requested, topics that have been requested, and designs, and I always take your ideas and I put them in that so I don't lose them. But it is hard to come up with the time to always get around to them. But this is where the beauty, if I had full time to do this, I could be knocking out that list every week, you know? But I like this idea and I will add it to my spreadsheet. I think I already did actually when I replied to this, these comments. So yeah, I will add it. I like that idea and that's good. Like right off the top of my head, I'm like, yeah, the progression of like just learning and then getting more equipment. Like if you guys have been here for like 2 years, I used to always paint the backgrounds of my bonbons with a large round paintbrush. And I got pretty good at that technique. But once you get an airbrush, it's like, why would you paint it if you can spray it? Spraying is annoying because it's a lot of cleanup, it's a hassle, get out all the equipment, but it's so much better. Even, thin coat, the paintbrush is hard, and if you get the coat too thick, you can taste it. Sometimes the cocoa butter, if it's too thick, doesn't taste very good. Also, different colors can taste different. It's kind of weird. Anyway, but great video idea. And this is from the same person. It's our subscriber highlight, Mark. If I'm remembering your name right. I think so. Here's your other request. How about a video briefly discussing how an amateur, a serious hobbyist, or a professional would approach different tasks based on the equipment someone would have at each level? Kind of what I was talking about, like how to back your bonbon. Paintbrush, airbrush, you know? Like how tempering is done in a microwave, a tempering pot, or a continuous tempering fountain thingy. Do you debate whether to buy fancy new equipment versus keeping your setup simple enough for us aspiring home chocolatiers to be able to keep up? I like this. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, these are good requests because if you watched every video on my channel from in order, chronological order, you would see the evolution. But I like your idea to kind of, for me to kind of go back and sum it all up and put it into one video that delivers it quicker to see the differences. That's a really good idea. And yeah, I kind of like, as I grow, I think right now I can relate to a lot of people who are just making chocolates at home like me. And hopefully in the future, if I open a shop or, you know, upgrade my equipment like you mentioned, I want to share all this as I do it. And so it's like, no matter what level you're at, you can relate and find helpful videos and instructions on what to do. I also feel like these types of requests is kind of partially, because they're time consuming. They take a lot of time to create, edit, put together, map out and everything. And I feel like this is another reason why Patreon is a cool place. Like I could even offer like, here are some video requests for this month, and you guys, the members who have joined, could vote on which one they want to see the most, and we could kind of do something like that. So it's kind of like, here I am, what do you guys want me to do for you? I'll do experiments for you, or I'll create this video. So yeah, I feel like those are some good ideas for that as well. Happy New Year. I have an antique metal mold that holds 4 ounces of chocolate. I don't know what the process is. Do I temper chocolate then just fill it up? Do I make a shell first? I would like to send this to a granddaughter for her birthday, March 3rd. Thank you in advance. Okay, first question is, what is the metal? Because I bought some antique molds last year and I got some good advice, and I honestly can't remember the details. I wish I could right now to tell you, but it might be a type of metal you don't want to use. So I would look into that a little bit more before you use it. My second question is, depends on how thick it is. Is it a bar mold? Is it thin? If it's like a thin bar or little thin chocolates, you can just do one layer, temper the chocolate, fill it up, pop them out. If they're like thick bonbons, my question is, are you sure you want to do just solid chocolate? Because it's not great to eat because it's like a little brick of chocolate. I would do a filling if I were you. So I feel like I can't fully answer unless I know the details, but and if you're going to do mix-ins, you might want to, even if it's a bar, you want to shell it first to protect the pattern and the design, so the mix-ins don't fall to the bottom and then show through the top. So that's kind of general advice. Hopefully it's helpful, but I would look into what metal the mold is and if you can mold with it. I'm walking up a hill, so if my breath was already heavy, hopefully it doesn't get worse. But I'm going to read the next question. Happy New Year. Hoping 2026 is a good year. Thank you, you too. That goes for all of you. How do you flavor chocolate itself, not the filling? If you want to make flavored chocolates without an artificial taste, for example, Mexican hot chocolate, spicy, orange, or peppermint flavored. I made it up the hill, and I just wanted to show you my view. I wish it were, every day is beautiful, but I wish it were like a more colorful, pretty day, because sometimes the view here of these mountains is just so nice. It's like purple, pink, orange. It's just kind of a mellow last couple days. But I'm sitting on this nice bench here. Okay, yes, so to flavor chocolate, you can mix right into the chocolate powders, crunchy mix-ins, but like for powders, let's see, for example, you said like Mexican hot chocolate. Mexican hot chocolate is like spicy, right? So like chili powder, you can put that right in chocolate. Anything powder you can mix in. You're not going to need a lot to flavor it. Like cinnamon, spices. You can use, if you want it to be fruity, but you're not doing like a soft filling like ganache, you can use freeze-dried fruits and then crush them into powders, or you can buy them as powders. Like freeze-dried raspberry mixed into chocolate would be delicious. You can use mix-ins that are crunchy. That's less of a flavor and more of a mix-in, but maybe, I don't know, maybe that's what you're looking for. Like orange. So for orange, you could do the same thing. You can use extracts. You just can't put too much because they can seize up the chocolate. But like you could mix in, it would be great for a texture as well, like candied orange peels. Yeah, those are good in chocolate, and then you could just mix those in. Let's see, what else? Yeah, like for peppermint, you could use an extract, or you could use mix-ins to help flavor the chocolate, like candy cane bits or something, and that also adds a texture. I like textures, so if I'm having like a plain bar rather than just flavored, I like a mix-in that is crunchy, but it would also flavor the chocolate, like peppermint. What was the other thing I was thinking? Oh, coffee's really good. Like if you can get some ground coffee beans into really fine powder, you can mix that right into chocolate and it flavors it, and it's really good too. So yeah, I would say powders are your best bet. It doesn't change the texture too much. It doesn't seize up the chocolate. Hopefully that helps. We made it to our last question. I think this video is going to be an hour and a half. Hopefully you guys don't mind. You can even break it up into bits if you want, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. It's been kind of fun for me too. Got out in the fresh air on a little walk, and it's kind of fun to chit chat with you guys. Hi Brittnee, wishing you a happy, prosperous, and healthy 2026. Thanks, you too. Could you give us some advice on using stencils on chocolate molds? I purchased the ones from Grayus and I'm not having any success in getting clean lines. Thanks. That's a bummer. But I have had this request a lot and it's on my list. It's on my master list, but some videos that you guys request that I feel also like, oh, I can film that right away and it won't be too hard. Plus a lot of people are asking. I have a different list for that one, which is like in the next coming videos. Like I have a couple in the queue that I like need to film, and so I need to do those, but that's one of my top ones that I'm going to film really soon. And not to mention Graya sent me that big box of molds and they have some stencils, and they sent me, because there's like the round ones, Louise, I hope I'm saying his name right, Luis Amato, he created some of those stencils, I think, for Grayus, and he's really nice. I talked to him on Instagram like a month ago. He was so nice to me. But he does some cool master classes. Anyway, if any of you ever get an opportunity, that would be fun. He's awesome as well. But yeah, he works with Grayus and he created those stencils, and I have some of his, and I haven't used them since like 2 years ago when I did my Barbie box for the Barbie movie. I used the black and white with stripes, but I'll have to show you guys what I did, because his stencils have half pattern on one and half on the other, which I was like, why would you do that? Kind of because like you might want the whole mold to just be the same type of stripe. So I literally sawed my stencil in half because I only needed the little stripes. So I literally sawed it in half and then broke it and had to do half the mold at a time. But then it wasn't solid stripes. It's a whole thing. I should just show you rather than try to explain it. But anyway, it was funny. I didn't film a video on it though, so I will film that one. Oh, but what I was trying to say is Grayus, one of my new favorite shapes, that one that's a rounded square. I did the video on the fall leaf technique with that, the bonbons. Grayus sent me stencils for that mold. So I have a half sphere mold and then the rounded square mold stencils. So yes, I'm excited to film a video on that. And the clean lines, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I've only used it once, and actually back then I didn't even have my airbrush. I had a mini spray gun because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. This was when I really first started using cocoa butter a couple years ago on my channel, and my compressor couldn't keep up with that mini spray gun, which is why I switched to an airbrush, and now I just always use an airbrush because I don't need a spray gun. Like, I'm not making mass-produced chocolates, you know. So yeah, anyway, maybe I got lucky because it worked for me the first try, and I used the stencils and they worked pretty good. And actually looking back, like, that is pretty crazy that it worked out, because the colors I was using were black and white, so I got pretty clean lines. So anyway, yeah, I'll film that soon and it'll be fun to test out. Comment down below, like, what colors do you guys want me to try, because I feel like there are certain colors that I like lean towards, like my favorite colors, and so sometimes it's fun, I don't know, maybe request some color combos that you guys want. Also, while we're at it, you guys should comment down below, just because now we're getting to the end of the video and I don't want you guys to forget. Comment if you'd be interested in joining a monthly membership where I would make videos. I don't know, we could do whatever we want to do. We could do requested videos, we could vote on topics, we could do specialized holiday videos. So like if there's a fun holiday that month and you guys want like ideas or a new technique that you guys don't want to try yourselves but you want to watch someone try, random experiments, deep dive topics, I don't know, we can do anything. So comment down below like what kind of videos you would want to see, and then what platform would you guys want. Would you want to do Patreon? YouTube memberships would be convenient, but it would cost the most for me. Like, you guys would pay the monthly fee, but then YouTube would take a third of it. So I just feel like that's a downfall of YouTube, but it's also convenient because you're already on YouTube. Patreon has a good setup. This is what they do. This is what they specialize in. So vote if you want to use Patreon, YouTube memberships, or on my own website, which is where all my future courses would be. You'd have the same login. Now, what I'm wondering is, I wonder if there's a community. I don't know that there's a way to like, maybe to go along with it. I know people use Discord. I don't really know how, but we could figure it out. That's, I think, what most people on Patreon use to like chit chat with each other, different members of the groups, so that we can all like become closer friends and, you know, all that. Or we could start like a private Facebook group for members. If I did it on my website, I would have to look into if there's like a community option where we can like, you guys could post questions, or we could do polls, or I don't know, somewhere where we can like chat, you know, and post. I don't know. More to look into. If anyone knows more about that, comment below. Also comment if you'd be interested what like price range you would be willing to pay per month, and like how many extra videos per month, because obviously I would still want to post on YouTube, but if I have paying members and I'm having a busy month, like the Patreon members would have to be the priority because they're paying. And I don't know, it is hard. I need to be better about my schedule, but yeah, like I said, with a full-time job and all that, life can be busy, but I'm doing my best. Hopefully one day I can do this full-time and spend all my time making chocolate and experimenting. That is what I want to do. But until then, hopefully it's enough. Anyway, I guess that's it. All the questions. Now I've rambled so long, I like don't know how to say goodbye. But Happy New Year to all of you guys watching. Thank you for sending me questions and being interested in what I film, and for supporting me and subscribing and all that. And always appreciate all your kind comments, and it really does encourage me to keep going. So yeah, thanks. Hopefully we have another great year. We'll see at the end of the year what we've accomplished. Hopefully lots of fun new chocolate things and lots of learning. All right. I don't know why this would be your first video, but if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, today's the day. I can't remember the outro right now. I'm not in my normal element, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye.